Hello everyone, today we are going to recreate this career model with hard mesh. First thing, we open the workflow window that we can put wherever we want, like here. If we select the model, we can see that it's composed from different operations that you can make visible by clicking on the icon. So it's like all the steps that are composing this model. Before going to look more in depth how all this is working, we just clean the scene. For doing that, you go on the utility menu and click on clean scene, and make sure to have like keep input meshes on. After doing that, just the result mesh will be in the scene. No plugin nodes are anymore in the Maya scene. We can delete all the result mesh and start again. So I'm just going to hide the mesh that I don't want and unhide the first two. One thing that you have to notice, the hard mesh is working now with just two input meshes. So the reason why we have this combined is because we cannot have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if we want to create everything with one operation. So we did this little setup that allows us to have this like array set up, so you can also edit the input and see everything updating. So for example, I select these two meshes. Notice that the resolution is quite low, so try to keep always the input mesh with a low resolution. Then we click here and we create a new operation. We can hide the input, we can hide also the curves, and that's the first result. So since we've done this setup, if I want to start to change the shape to see what I would like to do better, I just have to edit one piece and everything will be updated. If you see when you edit it that the normals are like going crazy, don't worry. As soon as you go ahead in the modeling, you won't have to worry too much about that, okay? Before going ahead with the tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to create this setup that is very nice for these kind of models, but also other. You can use it wherever you want when you model with hard mesh or when you have your standard modeling workflow. So I click here and I say delete. And I'm gonna show you how to create this setup. So it's important to be organized in the outliner when you model with hard mesh, especially because you can end up by having like 10, 20 inputs to create the model. So if your outliner is like too messy, it's harder to change things and understand what's going on. So I suggest you to be clean as much as you can. You're not forced to do it, but that's just an advice. So how this is made, I'm going to delete everything, just going to keep this one. Let's put it here. Let's call it like, okay, and go back here. Freeze. Okay, perfect. So we have our start piece. We want to have like this behavior that works with everything. the first thing you might think is like, okay, let's make instances, and that might be fine, but with ArtMesh you can use this other function that it's called reference copy. What reference copy does is creating another mesh that is driven directly through input connections from this one. Now, sometimes the shader is being lost, that's annoying. So as you can see, like an instance, when you move it like at object level, at component level, the shape is updating the same, but you can place this mesh where you want. Other than that, since it's a reference copy, you can also, for example, add another modeling operation, and things will always be kept updated. So that's nicer compared to the instance, because the instance forces you to have exactly the same shape. With this technique you can add more modeling operation on your copy, so it gives you a little bit more freedom, and it's, you know, it's not a special object. You don't have to convert back. If you want to convert like to a standard polygon, you have just to break the connection, so that's easier. And we are going to use this for creating the array for the subtraction. So as you can probably guess, we are going to create 1, 2, 3, 4 reference copies. Actually, make sure to always create the reference copy from the first one, so we have one object that is controlling all the objects. It's much cleaner. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I select them and I put them into this group. Now I'm going to put the pivot here in the center, and I rotate pieces of 72 degrees. Wow. Once we have placed all the pieces, we are going to create a combined version. We put the combined version in the group, and the thing that we want to do is being able to change all these different pieces by just changing the first one, the one that is creating the reference copies. So what we do is like hide it, go in the attribute editor, go in the shape of the object, and turn off the intermediate object. By doing that, the object is visible again. We just want these two objects do not overlap, so I select the group, I move it of a fixed distance, say 30, then I select the combined version and I move it back of the same value but negative. So what I can do now is doing the first operation. Make sure just that the options are set as default. So like in Maya, if you double click instead of just clicking, the options are opened, and just by doing reset setting, all the settings will be put to 0. We want to use the ArtMesh dark shader. That is a nice shader that is created if it's not already in the scene for it's for seeing better the highlights. It's handy. So create the new operation, and we have it. We can hide the input and the curves and see that we have the first step of the model. If we change this object at component level, the model will be updated. And we can go ahead. We can always change the options, so we are just going to do other operations. So I select the output mesh of the first operation, I select the next one that I want to subtract, and I create another subtraction. one click, and it's done. Now we have two operations, the first one and the second one. We can go ahead, add the third one. Everything is made with the same concept. So 1, 2, another operation, and we can see that now the third operation, since was like, you know, there were smaller cylinder with one level smooth, the difference about on density of the mesh is quite high. That's not necessarily wrong, but let's use this as an example for explaining these two options. Both controls the smoothing, but this one it's on a global level, and this one is on a local level. So what does it mean? If I'm here, for example, let's just concentrate on these two, right? If I do a decrease, this will be affecting this, and this, right? Is on everything. If I do an increase, again, is on everything. So I might be here and I say, okay, yes, that's a nice resolution for these objects, but when I go back here, maybe this one is too detailed. It can be fine anyway, but just for making things more optimized, we can say, okay, it's too much. So we can act at the local level, so just for this operator and not all these, right? It's just the value of the polysmooth, so we put it 1, we hit apply, and now we have a much more even distribution of density. And for example, we can hide those unless we don't want to change the shapes. Let's hide it for now. And we can start to play a little bit with the radius. So I stay here, I deactivate the highlights so I can concentrate on just the aesthetic results. If I want to see on without the highlight on which intersection I'm acting, I can just like turn on the curves, and by selecting the different operators, the curves are changing color. So if I'm here, of course, I'm editing this one. I can turn them off. Okay. I can make the radius a little bit bigger. Maybe you can add like more subdivisions. Then I move like here, and I want to change this one. Notice that since this operation is not the first one of the chain, if I change this one, the computation will be slower because that's not the top operator, right? So that means that I change this must be computed, the result of this operation must be passed to this one, that will be recomputed for creating this, right? So the easiest thing that I suggest you when you want to change a specific part of the model is just to go here. So you just see the thing that you're doing, unless you don't want to have like a global vision. You're just here and you change this one. Okay. If it's still too slow, you can control things. You can just lower the resolution. Say, okay, yes, I like it. But I like also here a little bit more resolution. We can change also the tangency. Let's increase it again. Okay. Maybe now that there is more resolution, we want to say like, let's put it like 0.3. And then we can go back on the first one, on the last one actually, and we see that the model is updated everywhere, right? So let's go ahead and add the panels. So the panels are special kind of operations that are not really cutting or intersecting. They are like creating a panel, right? So we are using, let's turn back on the highlights. We are using this geometry for creating just a cut that we can then edit with the ramp. So I select the first result mesh, then the second one, and I create the panel operation. Okay, without options, we just have like, you know, this cut that is not really doing too much, right? So for making it really useful, we can, for example, make it bigger, too big, 0.13. Oops. And then we use the ramp parameter. Let's turn off the highlights, and with like this preset, we obtain this nice panel cut. If we want, we can play with the ramp of values. We are basically moving on the normal the edge loops, so it's pretty straightforward. And here, for changing this ugly segmentation, we just need to increase the smoothing of this mesh, right? So we put it like at, let's say, 2, and now it's behaving much more nicely. We do another panel, or I mean, we could also have combined them, but here we are going to create another one. Again, cut is created. We can use the same ramp profile, and if you see some artifacts, you know, maybe it's because you're going to match inside with the scale. So this one is much nicer, right? It's giving much less artifacts. And also here I can notice that is like, you know, not very smooth, so I will increase also this one. Done. And we are basically done with the main part. Now that we have all this, we can still add I already have the bolt bases, and I'm going to create a bolt with always with art mesh. You know, it's easy to create a bolt that has like a flat top with topology. It's a little harder to create a bolt that has like a rounded top. So I mean, you can do it with topology, but that's not the goal of this tutorial. So I select those two and I hit difference, and I have my bolt. It's behaving nice. We can increase the resolution, but I mean, that depends on how close do you want to go in the final render. For me, this is nice. We can even keep it lower. Okay. After that, with these objects selected, I'm going to center the pivot here, and I will create other reference copies, this time of the output mesh, this way. Reference copy is 72, again, always starting from this one. In this way, again, the objects are connected to this first one, so if I change it, right, everything is updated. I can then put all these in a group. Okay, let's hide the inputs, and almost done. So we are going to create another subtraction. This model is mostly made with just subtractions and panels. So first one, second one. Let's do this. Okay. As you can see, since here is a little bit tricky, we already have an artifact. Don't worry. We can solve it probably by increasing the resolution. Here it is. And let's make the blending smaller. Okay. This part is quite tricky, but you know, still working fine. Once we have done the model, we can always edit it, right? So let's say that we want to change the shape of this, right? We can just go here, show the inputs, and we want to edit from this part. Let's activate highlight, hide inputs, and okay. So we want to make it taller. Can go here. These things are just the balls that are coming out. Okay. I mean, you can go ahead with this refined process as much as you want. That's the nice thing of things that are modeled in a procedural way. You know, you can, for example, you can also do it while rendering. Why not? Okay, much better. So we have this, and let's say we are creating already like an image, a still image, right, for presenting your model. Or depends, maybe you're working on advertising, and so you already have your shot, right? And you want to improve it just from here. What you can do is just select it and say, maybe this is not nice, we can do that. Maybe would be nicer if this radius was bigger. This radius is this one. It's updating. We can again just select this part. It's too big. This was perfect, right? Maybe not. Should be smaller. Or maybe we don't want it at all. It's without, right? So you can also do this kind of fine adjustment while rendering. So this was a basic overview on how to create models with ArtMesh. We don't want to go too much in detail with all these options. For those things, I suggest to look into the documentation that has now all the GIF animations, so you can understand better how this is working. Hope you guys have found this tutorial useful, and see you next time.